Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So tonight I'm going to return to a topic that, in reality, I've kind of backed away from covering this on the YouTube channel, but unfortunately, it's something that I have to talk about occasionally because, it's how can you ignore it? I cover a range of topics. I've explored, I've gone a little bit more into the relationship side, but, it's always about, something that catches my attention in Brazil, particularly with Black Brazilians. Now, some of the stories that I may cover, some of the videos that I might share, I feel like they they be videos to give you an overall interpretation of the situation in Brazil. And as I've posted a number of shorts, just people talking about how relationships work in Brazil. And I think a lot of things that people are saying in this particular uh we'll say format, area of discussion, I think it applies to all Brazilians because it just gives you an idea of how people are thinking. Similar to what we're hearing about relationships in the United States, it crosses racial lines because when you break down the dynamics between males and females, it's often the same, and it applies to people of whatever race they might be. But even though I haven't talked much about this topic, I have covered it a few times. And today, unfortunately, because of how big this story is, I definitely felt like I had to go ahead and at least share the story with people who follow this channel. In the past, I've talked a lot about the violent nature of military police in Brazil. It's just I say it and I say it again. I could have created a whole blog or video channel just talking about the numbers of Brazilians who get killed by military police every year. And it's like no matter how many times you read the stories, it always seems to be you could just like delete the name of the person who got killed and the story will always be the same. The police are, they go up into these favela regions, the lower income areas that surround major cities and even smaller cities. And they claim they're going in fighting, drug trafficking. What, and nobody's denying that there's not drug trafficking going on in favelas. That's true. But the problem is when you go indiscriminately into these neighborhoods of mostly just poor working class people and you just indiscriminately start firing weapons and you don't care who catches the bullet. And so it really just got frustrating, kind of sickening to have to always cover these stories. But, the blog, blackbraziltoday.com is just, if you go there and just take a look around, you just find story after story about it. If you punch in, if you use keywords on the blog, military police kill, you'll see story after story. João Vitor, killed in Rio de Janeiro. Military police killed Black teenagers who had already surrendered with their hands up. The genocide continues. Military police killed 15 young Black males in operations in Salvador Bahia, which is in the Northeast. Wow, wow, Rio. Did military police kill 6 in revenge for police death? 2 Black girls, 4 and 7, killed by gunfire in Rio. Military police claim no responsibility. Residents say otherwise. Girl shot and killed by military police in Rio's Alimão complex. 24-year-old Black economics student shot and killed by police. Neighborhood protest is violently repressed by military police with tear gas and rubber bullets. 10-year-old shot and killed by military police after theft of car and crash. Military police took more than 100 shots at 5 Black youth killed in a car in Rio. Governor says case did not involve racism. In a quick verdict, judge absolves military police that killed 12 Black males, execution style. I mean, stories just go on and on. As I said, it got to a point where it's just, this is so depressing. It's like, how can I keep covering these stories? I didn't want to, develop a reputation where that's all I was talking about on my blog. Here's a popular stat that says, according to a study Every 23 minutes, a black youth is murdered in Brazil. Okay. Shocking. Brazilian police killed 17 times the number of blacks than American police killed in 2019. These stories, I wouldn't be able to put these stories up if they didn't exist. Military police recorded standing on a black woman's neck. This police officer was acquitted of any wrongdoing. Two more black lives that didn't seem to matter. 24-year-old model designer Caitlin Homel was struck down during police action. She was 14 weeks pregnant. In Rio's blackest neighborhood, the Jacarezinho favela slum police operation leads to 29 deaths, the city's most lethal massacre. And it just goes on and on. This was a very famous case from about 3 years ago. Um, I mean, what else can I say? There's been another massacre that people have been talking about lately. I haven't even gotten around to covering that story, but I wanted to talk about this story today because it's just a situation where the story is so big. How can I not discuss this? So, this is the other end of that postcard image of places like Rio de Janeiro, in the outside world, outside of Brazil, outside of Rio. People look at the beautiful beaches and the bikinis and soccer, sand and sun. And people think about Rio, fabulous, wonderful Rio, the Christ Redeemer statue. But this is the side about Rio that, frankly, if you don't live there, you may not know about this. But, the what people have called a black genocide has been going on in Brazil's poor neighborhoods for decades now. So let me get into this story. As I'm just saying, I understand that people do have a fascination with Rio de Janeiro, but again, the postcard image versus the reality there is something you should look into before you visit the city. I'll just say that. Rio definitely has areas where you want to visit if you're a tourist, but just understand the reality of poor, specifically black people who live in poor neighborhoods, right? Clearly police treat areas differently. They don't go into ritzy, we could say upper crust Rio de Janeiro neighborhoods and go in shooting because they're looking for a drug suspect. But yet they'll do that in a favela where it's mostly black people, mostly where if you prefer black and brown people. So anyway, how many more young black males? 13-year-old teenager killed by the military police during an operation in Rio de Janeiro. The contents of this story that I'm bringing you today are courtesy of Rádio Nacional, Revista Fórum, Estado de Minas e Mundo Negro. This story has been, it's been a top story in all over the web for a few days now. So, the tragic death of Thiago Menezes Flausino, a 13-year-old teenager, shocked the Cidade de Deus neighborhood located in the west region of Rio de Janeiro. The young man was shot during a military police operation on Sunday night, August the 6th, and according to family reports, he was struck by at least 5 shots. Many of you who are familiar with you've heard this term before. This area, Cidade de Deus, is named after the popular film from either it was a 2001 or 2002. It was an international hit called Cidade de Deus, translated as City of God. Yeah, so this is a real region in Rio where people live, and unfortunately, you got some notorious images from that film, and this is another story, how it goes down, another notorious story of a black male being taken down by a stray police bullet. So this is 13-year-old Thiago Menezes Flausino, who lost his life last week, or was it earlier this week? The victim's relatives and community residents claim that the police action was disastrous and questioned the version presented by military police of Rio de Janeiro. According to Nathalie Bezerra Flausino, Thiago's aunt, the police officers came in shooting on the scene without any apparent justification. Other witnesses who preferred not to be identified confirmed this version and denounced that the military police even simulated an exchange of fire to cover up the facts. What can I say? We hear this story all the time. Everything in this paragraph is something I've had to report over and over again. the military police saying one thing happened. Residents who were on the scene say it's the police version is a complete fabrication. Police saying, there was a shootout. You know, we had to retaliate because shots we were being shot at. We were being shot against. Um, People saying that they covered up the evidence of the case. Later on, you're going to see that the military police tried to brand the 13-year-old as a criminal. Anyway, let me keep going with this story because everything in that first paragraph is something I've been covering for years. The story is always the same. All you got to do is really change the name, and this whole story would apply to just dozens, hundreds of young Black youth living in whatever city, particularly Rio, Sao Paulo, Salvador, cities like that. I mean, just keep in mind how the type of equipment that the military police uses against these poor residents in the in favelas. People have grown accustomed to police actions in their neighborhoods, and they know that it's like a dangerous zone. Like how many people fear for leaving out of their home and either themselves or their children not coming home at night because of all of the violence that goes on in these favelas in a so-called war on drugs. So anyway, who's speaking here? Okay, this is Thiago's aunt talking. She says, talking about him, she's breaking down her side of how this whole thing went down. She says that he was on the other side of Cidade de Deus on a moped with his friends. And then when his father heard that there was a police operation going down, he immediately asked them to come home. He quickly came, but when he went across, he took the main path passing by. I don't know if it was a motorcycle, a moped, or a police car. And they started sending a lot of shots at him, said the aunt. This is the mother and the father of Thiago. See, they're both wearing, I guess, the neighborhood printed up T-shirts of Thiago. As he was a little far from the moped, we imagined that he managed to get off the bike and made a run for it, but he ran. The police kept shooting at him. He fell to the ground and still alive in agony. The policeman came like this. We managed to see a little on the cameras, and he took the last shot. Okay. Again, this is Thiago's father. Thiago, in addition to being very dear to the community, had the dream, like millions of Brazilian kids, had the dream of becoming a professional soccer player. He was a student at the Canalinhas Futebol Club, or they'll say Canalinhas Futebol Clube social project, also located in Cidade de Deus. A very loving child, always with a smile on his face, a special child, and not to mention that he was our football star. Football, obviously, how they call soccer in Brazil and in Latin America. As you can see from the T-shirts here, the same T-shirts that you'll see Thiago wearing, if I'm not mistaken, you'll see that one like this. This is their soccer club uniform. So his teammates showed out to bid farewell to their 13-year-old teammate. The premature death of the teenager generated indignation in the residents of the region who demand answers and justice for what happened. The National Union of Students also spoke out, questioning the military violence that continues to claim the lives of young Black people in Brazil, which is what I was taking you through by showing you just a number of the articles that I've posted on the blog over the years. This is just something that goes on all the time. Residents know it. Nobody can deny the violence that goes on in the favelas, right? In response to the accusations, the PMERJ, or the military police of the state of Rio, stated that a criminal was injured during the confrontation with the police officers and that a firearm was seized from the suspect. However, the version presented by the witnesses calls into question the legitimacy of this action. The military police of the state of Rio de Janeiro released a note informing that the Internal Affairs Department will open an investigation to investigate all circumstances of the operation that resulted in the death of Thiago Menezes Flausino. In addition, the Secretary of State for Military Police has committed to fully collaborate with the investigations conducted by the civil police. Again, that whole paragraph Just take out the situation specifically about Thiago who got killed, and you could slap that paragraph again in any other story that I've posted over the years. It's always the same thing. We're going to make an investigation, right? The family accuses the police of an execution. According to Thiago's uncle Hamilton, how they would say Hamilton, this guy right here, his nephew was riding a moped with another teenager when, on a corner of Cidade de Deus, the neighborhood, they were surprised by police shots. Thiago fell to the ground, taking a shot in his leg, and was then executed, his uncle claimed in an interview with media outlets. The family bases this version of the story on a video from the security camera of the establishment that was in front of where this happened. You know, people at Thiago's funeral, obviously. The perpetrators of the shootings are from the Shock Police Battalion and carried out policing at the scene when they were attacked, says the military police version of the story. So again, the military police is saying that they were shot on first, right? How many times have I heard this story? They shot at us and we shot back. After confrontation, a teenager was found hit and he succumbed to his injuries. A 9mm caliber pistol was seized at the scene, says Rio's military police. So they're saying, basically, they're claiming that Thiago had a 9mm caliber pistol. And so this is the narrative that the military police always presents. They want to present the victim who died as a suspect or a criminal. See, what happens is that in the eye of the public, if they can prove that the person who got killed either on purpose or accidentally, if they can shame his name in public and make him out to be a criminal, then the society as a whole will look like they won't have any pity for him because, like, well, he deserved to get shot. He was a little criminal anyway. But this is the same story over and over. You know, somebody catches a police bullet, he dies or she dies, and well, he was a criminal. And oftentimes they're just really not. It's almost like they want to just make it seem as if everybody who lives in a favela is naturally a criminal. And that's been, debunked hundreds of times already. An aunt of the teenager denied that he was armed. She says he was not armed. He was not a drug dealer. Our family members are very shaken up by the fact that they are accusing a 13-year-old child of being involved in drug trafficking. We unfortunately have become part of the statistics, she said in an interview with various TV stations that have been following this case. It's just the statistics that she's talking about is the higher likelihood of someone with black or brown skin dying in Brazil by a firearm. It's no secret. I've been, like I said, United States, when stories like this happen in the United States, it's broadcast all over the world. But with Brazil's, we'll say unannounced war against the black population, it doesn't generally get a lot of press around the world. The homicide office is investigating the case. The civil police confirmed the police officer's weapons were collected and an investigation was carried out at the scene, the corporation added. The military police internal affairs department was also called and instituted an investigation procedure on the case. This is a very popular rapper named Emicida. Everybody knows Emicida is one of the top rappers out of Brazil. So Emicida is revolted, obviously outraged. He's protesting against the assassination of a boy by police in Rio. So that's what's saying here. Popular rapper Emicida was one of the many who spoke out against Thiago's death. The rapper used social networks to vehemently protest the murder of 13-year-old Thiago Menezes Flausino by members of the military police in the Cidade de Deus region of Rio de Janeiro. The young man was shot by officers of the Shock Battalion during an operation in the community. So Emicida says, this is the rapper Emicida speaking. He says, as if it were not enough for the Brazilian state to murder a 13-year-old child, Brazilian society forces a mother who is going through the greatest pain a mother can face to interrupt her mourning to defend her son's honor. To say in vain to a horde of scavengers, sensationalists, and every sort of wretch that reality can produce that her son was innocent. It's not enough to kill once. You have to cowardly humiliate those who survive. Feed on their tears until there is absolutely nothing left but emptiness. It's not a country. It was never in the plan to be a country. It is a poor grinding machine, said rapper Emicida. Here's another picture from Thiago's funeral, friends and family. So Thiago was buried on Tuesday afternoon at the Pechincha Cemetery. His body was veiled in an evangelical church that he attended in the community. Thiago's father, Thiago Flausino, said that when he arrived to see his son's body already lifeless, military police wanted to stop him, so they started to intimidate him. He also denied that his son had any involvement with drug trafficking. He never even put a cigarette in his mouth, said the father. Governor, how long? Until when will we have other Thiagos, said Thiago's father. Same question people have been asking for years. How many more of these murders are going to go down? I've said this 100 times already. A professor at USP, University of Sao Paulo, the country's most, we'll say, prestigious university, he theorizes that there is just a plan to wipe out what they call undesirables in Brazil's poor communities, which is, majority Black and brown people. Okay. More pictures from the funeral, family and friends. Again, the Thiago t-shirt. Thiago's mother, Priscilla Menezes, said that Thiago was shot because he was riding a moped, because he is Black, and because he lives in a favela. This is Priscilla, Thiago's mother. People obviously are aware of the chances of, you dying just because you have brown or Black skin. Years ago, people may have denied that, but overwhelmingly, people understand that now. About 200 people were present to bid their last farewell to the young man. A friend of the Cidade de Deus community with a trumpet played gospel songs to confront or to comfort Thiago's relatives and friends. Obviously, everybody's in a really sad, depressed mood. This, as I said, this just goes on too often in Brazil, particularly in a place like Rio, where just senseless murders, accidental, stray bullets catching so many people. It's like it's an everyday thing. It gets to the point where you have to wonder if people just run out of tears because this is just so common and real all the time. Friends and relatives sang the song Eu Só Quero É Ser Feliz, meaning I just want to be happy, by the singers Cidinho e Doca, both from the Cidade de Deus neighborhood. Residents, friends of the young man's football team, and school and family members also attended the wake. This is a confirmation we saw in him, a cheerful, captivating boy who captivated people wherever he went. That's confirmation of everything. He gets the smile. With his smile, he dealt with the situation. Now we wait for justice and for everything to be revealed. There are cameras, the population that will tell how special Thiago was, said the boy's aunt. Regardless of anything, we can't take the life of a child who has dreams. It's not because he lives in the Cidade de Deus that he is a bandit, that he is involved in trafficking. He didn't even have time for that because he trained all week. And on the weekend, he had 2 or 3 games, said Thiago's coach. No one goes to the high-end condominiums of Barra da Tijuca shooting. And here inside Cidade de Deus, the police come in shooting. Again, this is what I've said over and over again. They're not going to go into upper crust, mostly white, just predominantly white neighborhoods and go in shooting if they're looking for a suspect. But in poor, mostly Black and brown neighborhoods, this is what they do. Thiago was passionate about football, and unfortunately, the state took away a child's dream, said another coach of the boy. Until when are we going to wait for the governor to at least pronounce himself on the case, who thus far has yet to pronounce himself? We want an answer, Governor. I ask you to speak because the family expects a response from the state, insist the relatives. And no matter what governor or, mayor you have in Rio State or Rio City, it's always the same thing. The residents demand responses. They demand responsibility. They demand justice. And the violence just continues. So this is what I'm saying about what you need to know about the reality of residents who live in poor neighborhoods in Rio de Janeiro and other other poor regions of large Brazilian cities. Okay. The versions of the family and the military police about the facts are different. While they say the relatives say, or while the relatives say that the teenager was executed and that the crime scene was forged, like the police covered up their tracks and made it seem like the kid was a criminal. Military police even said that the young man shot at the police agents. The case is being investigated by the Capitol Homicide Police, and the public prosecutor's office has also opened an investigation into Thiago's death. Family members claim that the young man was executed by the police and spoke in a scene forged. They spoke about what they believed to be a scene that was forged by the military police to make it seem as if this kid took shots at them and that he was a criminal. Thiago's uncle said that his nephew was executed by a police officer when he was already lying on the ground. Thiago was riding a moped with his friend, leaving Cidade de Deus. That's when he was approached at gunpoint. He took a shot in the leg. Thiaguinho, or Thiago, little Thiago, fell. Then we have a piece of the image which sees Thiago on the ground, still alive, and the police officer has just executed him, described Hamilton Bezerra Flausino. Again, this is the uncle. So he's saying that Thiago was already down, and then the police officer still, seeing him down, just took another shot at him and just took him out. Always have to wait and see whose side of the story is going to prevail. The military police of Rio de Janeiro took down a post on a social network that criminalized Thiago. In the publication made early in the morning of the incident, the corporation stated that, quote, a criminal was injured when he clashed with the police. So they posted this. I think I saw the picture, might have been on Twitter. And they actually stated that they labeled Thiago as a criminal who got injured when he came in. He had a clash with the police. So this is how they presented the news, the military police story to, just citizens who want to know about the story. They wouldn't lie, right? The measure came after the state public defender's office filed a lawsuit asking for the post to be removed. The text remained online on Tuesday, August 8th, even after the military police presented other versions for what happened and gathered almost 1 million views. So this post that the military police put out there, telling their version of the story, like, okay, well, he was a criminal and he was armed and, he took a bullet, again, trying to sway 1 million views to sway the public that says, well, he was just another, petty criminal, so that people wouldn't have pity for him. Another, a lot of people will say, a good criminal is a dead criminal, but it will prevail. Oftentimes when people get killed, they catch bullets or whatever, they will run his police record and see what they can come up with. And it's just like, okay, even if this person was caught stealing some candy out of a store or a bag of potato chips, is that justification for taking him out? That's always going to be the question. I'm going to be curious to see what's going to come out, but this is in public opinion in Brazil. I know people are swayed this way. If the police can paint the kid as a criminal, people will have less pity, say, well, he had it coming. And this, like I said, the blog is full of stories like that. The action states that there was a violation of the rights of the personality of the teenager, Thiago, as well as his mother. They're saying they're dirtying up his name in public opinion. And until all of the facts are ascertained, they were forced to take this tweet or this social media post down because it's, like I said, it sways public opinion without the facts being presented. So they were asked to take that post down. The Ombudsman Office also asked the military police to stop repressing the peaceful demonstrations that took place in protest against the boy's death. This is something that we see all the time. Military police kill somebody, whether they were aiming at the person or the person caught a stray bullet. People protest, people, they set fire to buses. They get pretty spirited out there, So again, how many times do we have to see? It's like you always, I had to leave, stop carrying so many of these stories because it just gets pretty depressing. And I'm not saying that to say I'm dismissing his story. I want to share this story, but it does get depressing. You see the candlelight visuals, you see people protesting, you see the pictures of people crying, people demanding justice, and the police always responds the same way. Well, he was a criminal. We were doing good by trying to fight this war on drugs. It's always the same story over and over. The note also says that the post on the official Twitter of the military police is made from the preliminary information passed on by the police officers who participated in the action, and that the military police command, understanding that this case is under analysis and investigation, decided to remove the post from the air or take it offline. So at least they took the post down, or they tried to paint this 13-year-old kid as a criminal who shot at them, who had some weapon. And like I said, oftentimes that's just not the case. So I just wanted to present this story. As I said, it gets depressing having to report this type of news all the time. But if the mainstream media doesn't pick it up outside of Brazil, a lot of people are not going to hear about this story. So this is the story of yet another young black Brazilian male was taken down by military police in a violent police action in a favela in Rio de Janeiro, or not even a favela, we'll just say Cidade de Deus, which is like a low-income community. So curious to know what you thought about this story. It's always sad, always, people obviously are outraged by these type of stories that happen all the time in Rio. If you just look at the statistics of police murders in Rio, I've gone through that before in a previous video. It's pretty shocking. So I'm going to end this video here, ask you to share your comments in the comment section, like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel if you've checked out more than a few interesting videos here. Click on the notification bell so that you'll be alerted when I put up a new video. And with that said, I'm going to end this video here and ask you to come and check out the next video that I put up.